Epidemics and pandemics, diseases that spread across lands, terrorizing all who stand in their way, killing by the thousands. Epidemics give death an opportunity to feast on mankind. As we look back in history, there are countless times where diseases strike fear to the hearts of men to such an extent that human reaction only made the situation worse.
Shows us that when disease strikes humans while trying to help improve their situation only makes the problem worse by blaming each other, fighting each other, abandoning the sick, and therefore creating a society with little morale or ethics. For example, the bubonic plague, a terrible disease that claimed many lives and is considered one of the greatest catastrophes to ever occur on Earth. The thing that made this disease so horrible, so devastating, was the human response. Even though the plague itself was horrible, it was the actions of the people during that time that plunged the world into a deeper darkness. People were becoming extremists, killing each other, torturing each other, and while trying to prevent the disease from traveling, were only spreading the disease even further, eventually leading to the destruction of most of the European population.
Disease is a thing that is unavoidable, no matter how much we evolve, because disease will always evolve with us. The dangerous thing is when this disease spreads without a quick cure or known cause. We will go to an expert in the bubonic plague to show you where it all started.
The bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, arrived in Europe by sea in 1347, when 12 Genoese trading ships docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. The people who gathered on the docks to greet the ships were met with a horrifying surprise. Most of the sailors aboard the ships were dead, and those who were still alive were gravely ill. They acquired an unusual fever, unable to keep down food, and delirious from pain. Strangest of all, they were covered in mysterious black boils that oozed blood and pus. The Sicilian port authorities hastily ordered the fleet of death ships out of the harbor, but it was too late. Over the next 5 years, the mysterious Black Death will kill more than 20 million people in Europe, almost 1/3 of the continent's population.
The consequences of the Black Death included a series of religious, social, and economic upheavals, which had a profound effect on the course of European history. The Black Death was one of the most devastating pandemics in human history, peaking in Europe between 1347 and 1350, with 30 to 60% of the entire population killed. It reduced world population from an estimated 450 million to between 350 and 375 million. In the 14th century. It took 150, in some areas more than 250 years for Europe's population to recover. Two pandemics weren't just in the past, they are still existing today. One of the most common and most troublesome pandemics is AIDS. For more information about, we will go to our specialist in the epidemiology.
AIDS, or acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is a disease in which there is a severe loss of the body's cellular immunity, greatly lowering the resistance to infection and maladies. AIDS can be contracted from unprotected sex, sharing needles, and other bodily fluids. If you contract this deadly disease, it means you also have the HIV virus. And since HIV causes AIDS, it is necessary to look at the origins of HIV to better understand the AIDS virus. HIV is a lentivirus, and like all other types of viruses, it attacks the immune system. Lentivirus, the name, literally means slow virus because it takes such a long time to produce any adverse effects in the human body.
Sir? Hi, we just got your blood work back. You had a huge decrease in white blood cell count. And, so any disease or infection you get from now on could harm your body in ways that we're not even sure what will happen. So I'll give you and your partner a minute. I'm sorry, sir.
It's okay, baby. We can do this together. You okay?
According to estimates by WHO and UNAIDS, 35 million people were living with HIV globally. At the end of 2013, that same year, some 2.1 million people became newly infected. 1.5 million died of AIDS-related causes. Now, if you compare these two diseases, you can see both similarities and differences when it comes to the reaction both diseases brought into humans. You can see that both Black Death and AIDS, there is an overall decline of more with people blaming each other for these diseases. The people of Europe at that time were blaming Jews for poisoning the water that people drank from. They were torturing innocent people to the point where they confessed to crimes they never committed. Of course, they were executed for the so-called crimes. Same sort of thing happened with AIDS, but not to such an extent. When the media first started talking about AIDS and its causes, they talked about how this disease was spreading mostly through homosexual population. And after homosexuality were facing an increase of hate crimes and were publicly humiliated by those who thought they were to blame. But the reason that the reaction was so extreme was due to the increase in medical knowledge and technology, so people had more knowledge how to find cures to diseases faster, therefore not creating the extreme human reaction that occurred during the Black Death.
With both diseases, some doctors refused to treat the sick in fear that they themselves will get the disease, and they left people feeling helpless. And that is one of the main similarities between the two diseases: human reaction. The fear and the feeling of helplessness, doubt, hopelessness, and the feeling that we live in a godless world was something that was evident in both pandemics. The difference between the reactions to both AIDS and the Black Death are plenty when it comes to the treatment of the disease. During the Black Death and the pandemic, leaving the victim to die and hoping that the victim did not spread the plague to any of his or her family members. With AIDS, the treatment was much different. Besides the obvious advances that have been made in the medical and technological fields, doctors really tried to help the victims by trying to give them a cure, giving them medicine, and prescribing to reduce the loss of white blood cells, trying to give them all the victims as much hope as they can provide.
Disease is horrible, but it is our response to these unknown and incurable threats that can make the disease-ridden times better or worse. Throughout time, there have been massive worldwide diseases that test us as a people, and how we responded in the past was a reflection of the culture of that time period. During the time of the Black Death in Europe, people were extremely religious, and the Catholic Church was at the center of life. So when the plague hit Europe, people turned to what they knew best, the Catholic Church and God. When AIDS hit the United States, we responded with what we knew, new medical technologies and practices that we hoped would help, if not cure HIV and AIDS victims.